Do you think Lehman executives knew that this was wrong?
For some of them, certainly. There were concerns being expressed at high levels about whether this is appropriate, what happens if the street finds out about it. So, there was a concern that there's a real question about whether we can do this, whether this was right or not.
One of those people was Matthew Lee, who had been a senior executive at Lehman and the accountant responsible for its global balance sheet. Lee was one of the first to raise objections inside Lehman about the accounting trick known as Repo105.
It sounded like a rat poison, Repo105, when I first heard it. So I investigated what it was, and I didn't like what I saw.
Was there a point in which you saw the accounting principles employed by Lehman Brothers change?
November 30th, 2007 was the end of our fiscal year, and I fully expected us, to make a loss that year, like everyone else. And when I saw we made money, it was a record year, in fact, I thought, that doesn't sound right. You knew the markets were doing badly, so why wasn't Lehman doing badly? And every time I found something and I went to my boss or whoever, no response.
That was 10 months before Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. Lee's position required him to sign off on the accuracy of the firm's accounting practices every quarter. But in November of 2007, he declined to do it.
By refusing to sign it, you were saying that you didn't believe the numbers.
Correct.
That this wasn't a fair and accurate representation of the financial condition of Lehman Brothers.
Right. Something's up here. Why can't people answer my questions? Why has Repo105 doubled? Give me an answer. Nothing was said.
Lee continued to press people for more information, but nothing changed. And 4 months before Lehman collapsed, he sent this letter to Lehman's top executives.
I've been telling you all year, I've been banging my head against the wall. I'm now putting it in writing.
Says it requires me to bring to the attention of management conduct and actions on the part of the firm that I consider to be possibly unethical and unlawful.
Yeah.
What were you talking about specifically?
Well, in that particular letter, I was general. There were so many specifics. I could have written laundry lists.
What kind of a response did you get from this letter?
It was like throwing a grenade. I wanted to wake somebody up, at least to address the topics.
It worked. 6 days after he sent that letter, Matthew Lee was downsized, let go after 14 years. But Lehman executives couldn't ignore the letter and asked their accountants from Ernst & Young to interview Matthew Lee.
And in those interviews, we have the notes, which are part of the report. He says very specifically, $50 billion repo transactions moving money off the balance sheet at quarter end. So our conclusion was Ernst & Young certainly knew it as of that time and did nothing with it.
Valukas says Ernst & Young was legally bound to make sure that Lehman's audit committee and its board of directors knew about Lee's allegations of unethical and unlawful accounting practices, but they never did.
Did the audit committee know?
No.
Did the board of directors know?
No.
Did Dick Fold know?
Did Dick Fold know? Well, he says no.
The only place Lehman CEO Richard Fold has publicly answered questions about his firm's bankruptcy has been in front of Congress.
I have absolutely no recollection whatsoever of hearing anything about or seeing documents related to Repo105 transactions while I was the CEO of Lehman.
He said the same thing to me face to face.
Do you believe him?
There was evidence which would show that that's not accurate. The president of Lehman Brothers told us that, in fact, he had conversations with Dick Folt about this, and documents were shared with him which would reflect the Repo105 transactions and how they were being used. Richard Folt's view on that was that he has no knowledge of it. You have other evidence that he did. A jury would have to decide who's telling the truth.